Greetings once again. I hope everybody's well. This is another quick video, my take on fake, because in the comments a couple of times people have been saying, oh, is that a fake? So my friends Shaw 58A, Shaw Beta 58A, because it sounded ragged to me, they said, is it a fake? Well, I don't think so. It came from a shop 15 years ago or whatever it was, central London shop, so I doubt it. It's just the style of the mic, I think. And then somebody mentioned this one, which is, what is it? It's a Sennheiser. Both Sennheisers were mentioned, I don't know why, no particular reason. I think this is the 865S was mentioned. Is it a fake? And then when I was looking at this one from an older video, somebody said, looks really cheap underneath. Is it a fake? Well, a few things then. If you're going to go to the trouble of faking something, I imagine a couple of things then. If you're going to go to the trouble of faking something, then I imagine you've got to make your money back. Sure, you're going to go to... You want to give you the task of faking these, the finish and everything. And I know it can be done, I'm sure, but you're going to get your money back. So would you fake this one to start with? Has anybody even heard of it? I hadn't. Not knocking it, I'm just saying it's, so many mics. You've got to sell them if you're going to go to the trouble of faking. This one, okay, it's quite expensive, but how many people are buying this? I've never seen it on stage, so I'm thinking if you're going to fake something, you're probably going to fake an SM58 or a Beta, because there's a demand for them, I assume. You probably wouldn't want to be faking this. Well, you might. Because if you get what I'm saying, I'm thinking either you're going to fake ones that you can shift fairly quickly to get your money back, or you're going to fake something pretty expensive. For instance, then, there seem to be fake Rolex watches, all sorts of watches, particularly these days, probably because of CNC machining and stuff, you can do it. So you fake a Rolex, you've got to put a fair bit of effort into it, but the insides you can get from someone else. So I've got an Oris watch. It uses, I think, an ETA movement. I think ETA makes loads of movements for people who use their movements. So you could use one of those because people aren't going to, unless they're going to look inside, which you assume they're not. So you could get away with that, I suppose, as a mechanical movement. But then all the other stuff's got to look good, isn't it? But maybe you can sell it for £4,000, I don't know. So there's got to be something in it, I'd have thought. So what I'm going to do in this video is have a close-up look at these and see if there's anything I can spot that looks a bit not quite up to the standard I might expect. Okay, yes, some of the things that people have mentioned is, it's different. If you look at my SM58 video that I've just done from the vintage one, which turns out to be late 70s, early 80s, through to the Beta non-A, and there's something else in there as well. Oh, and the new one. I think I compared them all. When you have a look, simple things like the pins inside, which you'd think might be the same, they're not. Why is that? Well, obviously some of them are years apart, but why wouldn't they keep it the same? Manufacturing changes. People have them made in different countries. I think they were made in Mexico for a while. I don't know, I'm thinking about a Fender now, but Mexico and then China, Indonesia, all over the place. And probably do they find better ways of doing things, more efficient ways of doing things, so change it slightly because it's more cost effective? Certain things happen that you could no longer use certain processes or materials because they're now considered toxic. That happened with valves to some extent. The valves in the guitar amps and things, which you think are quite a simple device by now, but they don't seem to be able to make those the way they used to. And somebody said, well, they can't use the same materials and the same because they're considered toxic. As you know, perhaps with amplifiers as well, that they don't use lead solder now in the new ones, which has caused some problems with, I think, the way they used to do things. because it requires a higher temperature or something, so everything else has to change. So all that stuff goes on. So when you're looking at these mics and saying, oh, it's not this, it's not this, they might be genuine. It's just things have changed maybe several times over the life period of something like an SM58 and other things, a biodynamic M88, even though that seems to be remarkably consistent. So bear that in mind. So what I'm going to do now is have a look from above and see if I can spot anything at all that looks a bit dodgy. And we'll see. Okay, let's have a looky here. See if we can spot anything. And start with this. Have a look on the outside. Is that light a bit bright? It is. Sorry about that. Nothing sloppy to spot there. What about the printing? Looks pretty sharp to me. The switch. Printing underneath it. Operates okay. Let's look at the ends. Everything looks neat and tidy. No hint. Let's just, whilst I'm at it, put the two together, because the switch I noticed seems to be the standard Sennheiser thing. Looks and feels identical to me, so if it's been knocked off, as it were, as a fake, then must be from the same factory, or they got the same switch, bought it in or something. You've got to cut the hole in the barrel, of course. So you'd probably think, if you're going to fake one, probably fake one without a switch in it. Anyway, let's continue. Good threads. Very short. Doesn't mean anything. Got a rubber gasket there, so it's not going to come off. Can I see anything here? I can see some foam, so can you? I don't see anything sloppy there at all. Nicely done there. Well, it fits well. Seems to me that the groove, the gap, is consistent. Electric condenser. So okay, this isn't you might say it's not Rolls-Royce, but there's nothing wrong with it. Why would they make it Rolls-Royce? I mean, it's not all that expensive, this mic, so it seems to me it's sufficient for its needs. So I don't see anything that, to me, that looks like, that it's not genuine. That's that one. Yeah, no problem at all with that. What about this one, which is more expensive? Well, all the printing looks good to me. Nothing sloppy that I can see at all. Let's have a look at this first. Inner mesh there, and the foam there. Very tidily done. Now this was a bit, he thought, looks a bit cheap. Is it a fake? He said, looks a bit cheap that, for expensive mic. Is it a fake? Well, the other one incidentally doesn't seem to have any suspension, but we're not really looking at that. Well, I guess I kind of see what he means. It's all a bit plastic, isn't it? Sorry. I kind of see what he means. But it could be classier, I suppose. Could all be metal. If you could make it of metal, maybe the metal wouldn't work. But you know, once again, look at that bit there. I see what he means, but I don't really think... don't know if you can see down there. That's where the suspension is. I mean, really, all right, you might say Sennheiser. No one's going to see this, really, are they? But you might make that a bit nicer if you can, somehow or other. Just looking at that there, it's the same both sides, and you can see, yeah, could be perhaps a bit neater, but you might say, yeah, Sennheiser. But looking at the rest of it, you see, look at all this. If you're going to get all this right, I mean, that's kind of the least of your worries, apart from the innards, of course, but just the housing of the diaphragm. Yeah, I don't think so. Look at the rest of it. This has always been a bit tricky. There we go. You're not going to be doing that very often. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that I don't think I've got any of the mics that I've got are fake. I've scrutinized them, as you might well imagine. And I don't think any of them are fake. I'm not saying fakes don't exist, because I'm going to show you one that... I don't know. I'm going to show you something which seems too good to be true. Just now. Well, this has been a bit of an education for me. Let me tell you why. I went and had a little look online, and I'll show you this one, the Shure KSM8, and you can see the price. It says it's new. It seems to have all the stuff with it, even though you can see that the Shure bit at the front seems to have been blurred out a bit. But at that price, no. I looked again, and there's one in this country, or available from this country, for £20. But the person says, this is a copy of this mic. I do wonder. I mean, the KSM8 is a dual diaphragm. It took them a while to get that right. It's quite complex, apparently. It took them quite a few goes and blah blah blah. So I'm sure it hasn't got that in there. It must have something else, as I mentioned about, like the watch. It must have just different innards, so it works as a microphone. The guy listed it under karaoke, interestingly. But even so, just looking at the picture, it's a complex shape. It's a bit like this one here. It's got some vents and stuff, and it curves, and so it's a fairly complex shape. I don't know. Have things? I guess maybe you can scan them. So yeah, it's been a learning curve for me, because I wouldn't have thought that it would be worth it, as I said at the beginning of the video, for a KSM8, really, because it's not like, you don't see loads of them around. You see a few. Is it really that easy to do? Particularly for the shape of it, and then you can, like the Rolex, you can put whatever you like inside, as long as it works. People just want to be able to be seen with the Roly or this. I don't know. Anyway, I'm quite confident that mine are not fakes. I say that, but yeah, partly because from being way back and being bought from genuine places, but also from looking. I mean, those online is only photographs. If I had them in my hands and I did examine them, maybe things would be different. The threads and all the rest of it. Threads are a bit of a giveaway often. But anyway, there we go. So before I finish, I thought, well, let me do a little bit of a test on these then. This is the, whatever it is, the Sennheisers, the expensive one. Well, that'll be in the... So there we are. And that sounds fine to me. Sounds fine to me. Sounds fine to me. Sounds fine to me. That's that one. And this is the other one. That's, yeah, I don't like it as much. Yeah. Up there and stuff at the top there. It's an electric condenser and it's about half the price, I think. Anyway, and they mention it as announcement, Michael. No, not quite that. But anyway, there we are. I thought I'd just do that. Back to this other one because I rather like this one. Back on this one again. Yeah, I like this one. Oh, may as well, because it's quite expensive. And then back on the SV33. So there we are. That's been a little bit of a learning curve for me. I mean, I don't know what you do. What can the manufacturers do? You've got AI. I'm into photography, some of you might know. There's AI in photography. Is it fake? You say what you want. You say you want me holding this with a Ferrari and a babe in the background and the sun setting and some geese flying across, and you speak that into the thing and it comes up with and constructs it for you. Okay, you had the idea that you want that particular image, but you didn't do anything with it. This is kind of over for this part, but a couple of things, seeing as I'm on a roll. With modern cameras, in the ones I've got, the old school one, you have to focus manually. Amazing. So it comes out, you've got to do that. Now it autofocus is very, very accurate. I mean, fantastic. So when you see all those football players in midair, you can just what they call spray and pray. So you just hold the shutter down, which they can do something like 30, 40, 50, I think perhaps frames a second, was like a movie. So you can just hold it down. And then at the end, you've got the perfect one just as they're catching the ball. And in fact, I think there's even software because you've now got hundreds of photographs to look through. But there's software that you tell it what it wants, it can recognise it with AI, and we'll thin it out for you and just say, here's the best 5 I think. What's happened to that skill? Just the focusing enough is a skill, and having this shutter, so much to human stuff you have to do. Can be done. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't know. Some of the videos I see now, they're not real. Well, they're real because they're a video and they're in front of them on the screen in front of me, and are real in that sense, but not real in the other sense. There's a guy I've been listening to called watching Wings of Pegasus. I don't know if you are at all aware of his channel, Wings of Pegasus, and he uses software to analyze vocals. You can extract the vocals. So he does things like there'll be a live performance of something, and somebody will have recorded it on their phone, and then he'll go through the tour, which might be over more than a year, and with various recordings on the phone that people have sent him, and he'll match it up, and he'll say that vocal in his software, which strips everything else away and you can see it, is identical. Humanly impossible. So he says they're playing a backing track and they're miming. Simple as that. Humanly impossible. He did one with Michael Jackson, who he said was probably one of the most accurate singers. I mean, Michael Jackson had been doing it from that high. Everything would have been, in shape in his prime. And he was just doing a repeated phrase at the end of a song in a studio, over and over and over on the fade out, over and over. And he analysed that and said, look, a little bit early there, a little bit late there, tiny bit sharp there, tiny bit flat there, but nothing you'd hear. Nothing you'd hear. I mean, sound perfect. but you can see it now. And he'd say, that's human. This one, who's nowhere near as good in that sense as Michael Jackson, and what happens is it's perfect a year or two later on the same song. No. I don't know. That seems to be where we are. I don't know what you can do about this, other than, I guess, buy from shops, from established shops, or from the manufacturer. And if you're buying second hand, I guess scrutinise in the way that I've done here and see if there's anything that you think. But then, as I say, you've got to be careful because the manufacturing changes and blah, 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 and some of them are a little bit sloppy. I don't know. Anyway, Happy New Year. And I'll see you next time.